guys also want to just introduce yourself?
I'm Keshav. I'm assistant manager.
Okay.
I'm Pradeep. I'm assistant manager in the editor.
Okay. You guys want to just introduce yourself since we're not doing a lot of introductions.
Hi, I'm Vipul, manager of networking outreach.
I'm Purisha I'm an associate manager in BSc.
Okay. Who else has got introduced themselves? Yeah.
I'm Raj, I'm an associate manager in Digital IT Projects.
You're the social media.
Media
person.
and VFX.
Okay, fantastic. You guys want to introduce yourself?
We're from Life here, we're actually the official partner. We are partners for IIT Madras.
Okay. Both of you. Okay. Right. You guys can, I mean, there's enough room here, there's no need to. You want to
We
continue?
are part of the Nirvana.
Right. So, you want to move in? Well, you know you're featured in the video, no? In the Nirman video. Have you seen it?
I haven't got that.
Yeah, so Amrit has sort of created a draft, so you're featured, you've got laptop on one side and whatever, so it's quite nice actually, you should see it. Anyway, okay, so first couple of the general introductory words, good to have all of you guys. We have Bombay, Guwahati, IIT Hyderabad, Madras and IIT Hyderabad or Gandhinagar.
I think Hyderabad coming.
Is coming?
Yeah.
On the way. Which one is delayed? Hyderabad.
Yes.
Not Gandhinagar.
No.
Okay, so it's a good start. I think we've been talking about this quite a bit, saying all the IITs are now really, and not just the IITs, NITs, IIITs, etc., really focusing on entrepreneurship, like your base faculty entrepreneurship, student entrepreneurship, and everywhere the e-cell becomes a very critical player. Right? We'll talk about that a little bit, what our e-cell does and what. But it's essentially, to me, the e-cell is the glue that helps everything else stick together. So faculty are going to be out there doing their own research, some of which will be commercializable, some of which will not. Students will be doing their own thing, some of them might be playing sports, some of them might be doing innovative things, etc. There's actually staff members in labs, etc., been in these labs for decades who really have interesting ideas on what they can do to tweak certain machines and make them more productive. There's a lot of thinking on campus, but this has been there since the IIT. We've got interesting BTech projects, PhD theses, etc. That part has not really changed, right? But point is, no one's really thought entrepreneurially before. And if there are no interventions, the system will continue to perpetuate, right? So there has to be some kind of external intervention to be able to first evangelize entrepreneurship, put that in the horizon of people's worldview, right? So we were just talking, so I'm an alumnus of IIT Madras as well. I graduated in '98. And when we were students here, entrepreneurship was not even in our vocabulary, right? Literally, we may not even have known that such a word existed, much, let alone think of it as a choice. For us, it was very focused. At IIT Madras, it was at that point, job scene was relatively poor in India, so apply abroad, right? So you focus your 4 years on getting enough of a CGPA that some half-decent university will admit you. Be nice to 2 or 3 professors who will write recommendations for you, and write your slog, write your GRE, etc. Go abroad, right? So this is the formula. 90%, 10% will write the CAT exam, or the few fellows who got left behind will take up jobs. But that was, so this whole notion of entrepreneurship was not even there, right? Today it's almost ulta. At least at IIT Madras, I think very, very few students these days go abroad as a professional, right? So again, I started my batch in '98. I was in civil, so we had 49 students at the time. We used to have this practice of admitting foreign nationals. And the problem with admitting foreign nationals is because they never went through the rigor of JEE. They would find it very difficult, so they always have these backlogs. So therefore, foreign nationals I discounted because they graduated much later. So out of 45 people, 43 of us went to the US. One fellow went to the IIMs. The last person got an admission with financial aid, but his father was quite seriously ill, and therefore he decided to stay back. Okay, that was the only reason he stayed back. No other reason. Otherwise, so that was So if you look at the percentage, I don't know what that is, 98%, 97%, whatever, right? So except 2 people, all of us went abroad. Today, when I look at again IIT Madras, and I'm pretty sure it's not very different across the IITs, it almost looks like only about 5% are going abroad. So I was polling my, the civil engineering class I teach now. We have 100 students, about 10 of them are applying abroad, right? Which is not to say that they're all going to go abroad. Okay, so 10%, 5%, etc. And now it looks like a lot of people are not only interested in taking up jobs, a lot of people are interested in dabbling in entrepreneurship. Very often, I talk to second years and I say, what do you guys want to do? Popular answer I get is, we either want to start up or we want to work with a startup, right? Either way is fine. Not only putting entrepreneurship on the table, but also unpacking it a little bit, right? So what is, entrepreneurship? So people don't head in blindly. Because the problem is, we have a lot of extremes. sometimes entrepreneurship becomes like over sexy. Right? Everyone wants to do it. On the other hand, some people keep pointing out the perils of entrepreneurship. Only 1 in 10 million companies succeed, etc., etc. And so, but there is a balanced view in the middle of what entrepreneurship really is. Right? So, who actually is going to provide that to students on campus, to faculty, etc.? Who's going to sort of show the pathway of what can be done? How do you start, etc.? Right now, the system doesn't have anyone inside these IITs. The faculty are going to be doing their own research, right? The students are going to be sort of taking their own courses, organizing Culfest, etc. So the system will perpetuate, and this is where I think the e-cells come in, right? So e-cells play this very critical role of putting entrepreneurship on the table, right? Putting it into everyone's worldview, unpacking it so people understand, get a sort of a realistic perception of what entrepreneurship is, right? Obviously, it's very difficult, right? But at the same time, it's very sort of rewarding. It's not necessarily for everyone. So all of these sort of arguments need to sort of be put out. And what's the pathway? So somebody comes and says, I want to start, right? How do they start, right? What do you tell them? What, even if you can't, right? Wherever, okay? And obviously different e-cells do it differently, and that has to be the case, right? We can't have a cookie cutter template. But I think in the process, what's happened, and I think there's almost every college in the country, I think, has an e-cell, I'm told, but in most cases it's defunct. I think there was some government grant of 5 lakhs if you had an e-cell. So people just sort of created an e-cell, got the 5 lakhs, but there's hardly anybody, there are no students, no faculty, etc. But obviously that's not the case in some of the premier institutes, the IITs, the NITs, the IITs, etc. The e-cells are actually flourishing. I mean, they're sort of active, doing stuff and all of that. And in that process, there's a lot of learning, right? So there are lots of things that all of us have done that have not worked well. Okay, there are lots of things that all of us have done that have worked well. And rather than have all of us reinvent the wheel, I think it's very important that we share, these experiences, right? So I remember, 10 years ago or 11 years ago when I came back to IIT as a faculty, our e-cell was called something different. It was called C-Tides at the time, Cell for Technology, Innovation, Development, Entrepreneurship Support, right? And nobody else in the, so C-Tides was one person, and nobody else in the institute knew that C-Tides was this person. So it was like a self-appointed, okay, I'm C-Tides guy, right? And that was entrepreneurship under the e-cell ecosystem at IIT. And we started conducting business plan competitions. Some things worked well, some things were terrible, right? And we started holding events. So, like our journey, all of you, I'm sure, have collective wisdom, like you individually, but then your organization over a period of time is, before you, all of that has stories to share. So I think it's very important that we share these stories so that all of us grow. I mean, the point is we're all in this not for any personal gain, right? We're all in it to create a vibrant ecosystem. And also, I think it's important to see if there are synergies between e-cells. So, for instance, IIT Bombay might be particularly good in a particular area of engineering. I might have somebody who wants to start up in that area. So, rather than trying to force fit that person into my ecosystem, perhaps I should find a pathway to see if they can leverage the expertise in your ecosystem, or vice versa. There might be somebody in Guwahati working in an area.
What was my intent? My intent was to make you wait or make you curious about what I'm going to say. Yes or no?
Yes.
Was I successful?
Yes.
Why? Because I gave you a fact and I left it in between. And I made you wait for what is about to come. So when you are giving a presentation, do not focus on the product or the concept. That is already there in the PowerPoint. That is already there in the document that you have given. Talk about the emotions behind it. Talk about something that matters. How it is going to help. So when you start the presentation, first thing you're trying to get people interested in listening to you. Correct? So we've covered that bit. Now when you've got people interested to listen to you, you have to sell your idea, you have to sell your concept. Yes? No? People do not buy. There's a saying in sales. People don't buy products. People buy emotions. How many of you go to PVRs for watching movies? PVR, Inox, multiplexes for that matter. Pretty much everyone? You buy popcorns from there? Not every time, but most of the times we buy popcorns. is popcorn important? Is it essential for a movie? Can you not watch a movie without a packet of popcorn? Yes, no? You can watch or you cannot watch, but you still buy it. Why? Why?
Experience.
It's more of popcorn and movies connected together through ads, through what you've seen. Even when we were growing up as kids, we never had multiplexes, single screen theaters, right? How many of you have watched movies in a single screen theater? Pretty much everyone. There the popcorn used to come in smaller packets, a lot cheaper as well. So our parents used to buy us those popcorns because those were available in the theaters, and it has somewhere remained in our mind as something which goes with a movie. Even ads, for that matter, Act 2, the ads that come on TV for Act 2 popcorns, they harp on the fact that you need a popcorn to watch a movie. Yes? That kid saying that if I was watching a movie which काश मेरे dad का होता, काश ये picture मेरे theater मेरे dad का होता, something like that. So he's talking about that popcorn. So it is something which is fed into our subconscious. That is the emotion that we buy. We are not buying the popcorn, we are not buying the product. So when you are talking to people, when you are presenting in front of investors, when you are presenting in front of your prospective customers, even that is required, right? It's not only investors. Investors will invest money if your pitch is good. But after your product gets developed, you have to sell it to the market. You need to pitch there as well. Whenever you're pitching, whenever you're presenting, talk about the emotions behind it. How it's going to change their lives. If I buy your product, how is it going to change my life? It's not only the benefit or the feature of the product which is going to sell. The product can have amazing features. It's going to be of any benefit to me. If not, then why would I pay even 1 rupee for it? Now that benefit is not always material benefit. It's a lot of times more to do with the feel-good factor, that I might wear a, say for example, whether I'm wearing a Rolex or I'm wearing a Fast Track or a Sonata, the time is going to be the same. But when I wear a Rolex, it sort of gives me a good feeling. It makes me feel somewhat elevated in status, right? So those are things on which products sell. Products do not. So if only the feature of a product is what sells, then why do the same kind of products by different brands have different prices? You buy the same product by different, made by different brands, by different companies, the pricing differs. Why? Is it just the product feature? No. It's the goodwill, the value, the tag that is associated with that particular brand. And that is what emotions are. If I buy something which is really expensive, I buy a Merc, people will look up to me. If I drive around in an Alto, like, okay, I move around in a Yamaha RX100 in Bangalore. So be it, I love it. It's something which has stayed with me since right from my college days. For my first bike, and I still love it. I don't want to go for any other bike. I don't even like cars. There's a car at home, but then I don't drive the car. I am very happy with my RX100. That's because I have an emotional attachment to it. That is what is needed. Your product should create that emotional attachment. Only then people are going to be interested. Do not ever focus on your PowerPoint presentations. If PowerPoint presentations are good enough or were enough, then you would not have had to stand in front of investors and pitch, or in front of customers and pitch, they would have read it. With our PowerPoint presentation, yes, you need it because you have to show data, you have to show, certain trends, movements, projections, features. You need to show them, definitely. But when you're talking, don't just read out from your presentation. When you're talking, connect with them at an emotional level, and that's what is important.
Your sort of positions in the next month or two, and possibly somebody new is going to come in, right? Or are you guys the ones who are staying on?
The new one.
You're the new one. Okay, fantastic, right? So that was the other thing. I think going forward, it will be good to have the old and the new come together for this, right? But yeah, that's fantastic. So, but some of you are probably going. I know, these guys. Aman is out. You're probably going to be around next year. Yeah. So, etc. So this is great. But create that list so that and keep adding sort of people to it so that stays as a. Anyway. All right. So this is how we look at it. We look at, first of all, if you want entrepreneurship, you need ideas, right? You need innovation. And the question is, where does innovation happen? There are some very standard areas in all universities. So obviously research labs. Right? So research labs are key. A lot of innovation happens there. Hopefully people are doing cutting edge research and developing products, all of that. So research labs is one. The other thing again which is present in most universities are hostels, right? I think hostels are a real sort of hotbed of idea generation, right? So never underestimate the power of the tea you drink at 1 in the morning, and then you come back, and I don't know what the equivalent is in other IITs, but here we had, or at least in my time, we used to have something called a wing cot. So as you get into a hostel wing, so our hostels, you walk up the stairs, you end up in the middle of the wing, half the rooms are on the left, half the rooms on the right. Right there, we used to have this steel cot, right? And essentially you just came and sat on the cot, and that became a meeting place, and people discuss sports, politics, movies, whatever, but innovation, ideas, etc. as well. And these conversations sometimes lead to very interesting ideas, and some people actually start taking them up. So I think hostels are again another hotbed of innovation, and this is probably true everywhere. In addition, at IIT Madras, we have now lots of other universities do have an equivalent of Center for Innovation. But the Center for Innovation that we have is sort of a tinker lab. I think the tagline is walk in with an idea, walk out with a product. It's just a place primarily for undergraduate students to go and get their hands dirty. And I underline undergraduate students because graduate students are normally affiliated with the laboratory. Right? You come as a master's student or as a PhD student to do research, you have a professor, you have access to a lab. Right? Undergraduates don't. Right? So for an undergraduate student to get their hands dirty becomes a bit difficult. You have your workshops, but those are sort of apart from the classes that you take there, you don't really do much. So CFI, the idea behind CFI was to bridge that, was to say, okay, here's a place where there are some machines, there are some microcontrollers, this, that, put things together, start innovating, and it's completely self-governed, right? So there's a student group, they decide what projects to work on, etc., right? So all of these are places where innovation happens, right? And I think it's important, not all of them, well, ESL may not be able to do very much, but I think it's important to make sure that these are vibrant areas. Where do you get ideas from? Right? Because ideation doesn't happen in isolation, right? So one of the things that we're trying to do at IIT is to set up, and continually encourage faculty to do research. Right, encourage students in hostels to organize all kinds of competitions, all these kinds of things. Right, so that's one part. All this does is it leads to ideas being generated. Right, cool ideas, maybe some experiments being done, that kind of stuff. Right. Now, once you have ideas, right, not all of those ideas are obviously going to be commercialized. Some are possibly just research, good things to publish in journals, etc. Others are absolutely useless. For instance, very interesting idea one of our students had about 8-10 years ago. He said, you have these earphones, and those kinds of things, or these kinds of cords, etc. They keep getting tangled up. So every time I pull out from my bag my laptop charger, I spend a good 15 seconds untangling it, etc. So this guy came up with a small sort of device around which you would wrap everything, where it would never get tangled. Okay. Pretty cool, right? Just that no one wants to buy that kind of stuff, right? No one wants to pay for it. It's a cool thing when you go to these, when I get this kit, it's nice to have it inside it. I mean, I would like to use it, but I'm not going to spend like 50 rupees in a store buying. So again, there are all those kinds of ideas. But then there are all of these ideas in the middle which have potential, okay? Which may or may not succeed, but they have potential. So then the task becomes, how do we extract? So pre-incubation, we have many things. We have, as some of you know, this program called Nirman. So Nirman is open only for students. You have to be a student, right? You have an idea. And the point is, you have you want to do two things. One is you probably want to prototype your idea. You have a good idea of how it works, but you really want to sort of make it. But more importantly, you want to market test, and you want to know if this is actually, like, unlike this dongle thing that this student developed, is there actually a market for it? Will people be willing to buy it? So the idea behind Nirman, and still a work in progress. Idea behind Nirman is to take students during the semester, part of a 6-month program where through talks and mentorship with alumni, this, that, etc. You get to a point where you've developed a prototype, you've done some market soundings, etc. And now you have an idea whether the thing you're working on will work or not. Right? Is it on the market? Right? Is there potential?
15K, 20K and buy a phone. There are 10 brands that we can choose from. Which is the one that we choose? The one that we trust. There might be another brand, a new brand, which has not yet been able, which has amazing features. But just because I don't trust that brand or I have had bad experience, I go ahead and decide not to go for it. That trust is very important, and that trust builds the credibility. That credibility sells your idea, sells your product. So always remember that. So that's how you move the entire, piece. You start by engaging people, getting people interested to listen to you, creating that connect, and then you build the trust, take it forward. Right? That's it. All the very best for your pitches, and just give it your best shot. Right? I know, winning matters, but then everybody cannot win. We all know that. How many of you have been into sports? What level? Which sport? Sorry, I can't hear you. Which level? District. How does it feel when you lose a match? It hurts, man. It really hurts. Okay, who else? What level? District. Anyone else? Table tennis. Again, which level? National level. Awesome. Anyone else? No one else? Come on, you're all studious, huh? Always studious, and it really, trust me, ask the people who have been into sports in a competitive level, it hurts. We talk about sportsman spirit and all that jazz. It sounds good on paper. It sounds good when the commentators talk about it, when your friends and your family talks about it. All feels good. But when you lose, it hurts. I was into contact sports, so it not only hurts, it pains as well. Because when you lose, you get all bruised and beaten up. So that is another part of the story. But it hurts. But if you let that hurt, take up a lot of space, what happens? You cannot come back. And if you only think of the possibility of losing and not winning, you start getting into that negative zone. And that's when the connect with the people also reduces. If I already am in a negative frame of mind, and I think that he is somebody who can help me, or I can collaborate with him, and I go to interact with him, I'm already in that negative frame of mind. So whatever I'll say will give that negative vibe to him, which is subconscious, right? And the interaction will not lead us anywhere, lead me anywhere, nor will it lead him anywhere. So be positive, kill each other, but in a fair way, right? Yeah, I mean that's fact. That's what we always say in sports. I mean, I have been into sports for a very long time. Unfortunately, I had to leave in 2009 because of a near fatal accident where I was in coma for 5 days. I was in ICU for 2.5 months. I was in bed for 8 months. I had 9 blood clots in my head, a broken jaw, smashed jaw, which I have a plate for, a right leg broken in 19 pieces. I still have a rod. Even yesterday in Bangalore airport, it happens every time I'm at the airport. They start frisking, and the moment they bring the metal detector near my leg, it starts beeping. And they're like, then I have to show them the stitches, and then they're like, okay, fine, you can do it. So that stopped my sporting career. But then, yeah, I was lucky, I was happy. I mean, I'm happy that I did achieve something before that in my sports career. So, I mean, no regrets. So, the one person I've played under, who was my captain, used to always, he's one of the, trust me, he's one of the worst and the best captains you can play under, one of the worst and best mentors and coaches you can have. A guy called Saurav Ganguly. Heard about him?
Yeah.
Everybody. I played under him in the under 19 segment. He was a pain of the first order in all the wrong places. Trust me. We used to hate him like crazy. He used to make us go absolutely nuts, absolutely crazy. But then later on, we realized that it was a lot helpful. His attitude actually was a lot helpful when we were in the matches, we were playing with other states. So that is something that we have been taught, or I have learned from him. Just be aggressive as you can be, but do not go to that extent where people stop liking you and start, getting away from you. If you look at it, Saurav Ganguly has been very aggressive as a captain of India, always, right? But he has never done anything which was in a way, I would say, which would bring down his popularity among the cricketers as well as the fans. Correct? Nothing like Steve Smith. Steve Smith, in the process of trying to be aggressive, crossed that limit. What happened? He lost the trust. Now, all the people, if you remember a few years back, Steve Smith was being compared with Donald Bradman. Yes? And now the same people, the same Cricket Australia folks as well as ex-players are totally against him. Why? Because he crossed that limit where he lost trust. Has anything gone bad about his cricketing skills? Has he become a worse player? No. So if you look at it, the product is still the same. The trust is lost. Can you now relate? It's the same thing everywhere. The product is as good as the trust and the love that it has from the people. Simple. So it's the emotion which matters, not the product. Correct? Cool. That's it. Have a great day. As I said, kill each other, but kill professionally, kill ethically. And do not, my 2 cents, when you're competing against each other, no friends, no best friends, no family, nothing. It's war, and in war you don't give even a millimeter of ground to your opponents, right? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Keep that in mind, always. Thank you. Okay, guys, one thing. Do not clap for me. Clap for yourself that you've reached this stage out of so many participants. You guys deserve it.
So we all from the Eastside team, we thank Mr. Anindya Banerjee for such an insightful and encouraging talk. Surely the art of creative pitching, basically connecting to the investor emotionally is an art to learn. So the given schedule is about to start, and the first pitch will be starting from 11:15 in ICSR Exhibition Hall. The agenda has been given. Some teams have reported lately to the hall. So I would I would ask them to report here and get their pitch.
All of the things are not takes over the decision taken by
might have to sign legal agreements. I mean, you have to first register your company, right? So you need people like lawyers, you need people like company secretary. The moment you hire somebody, you have to sign an employment contract, right? Which means you have to think through what you want to put in that contract, right? What are the terms, etc. How do you prevent this from stealing your invention? So, who's going to do all of this? Because most of us in this environment are engineers, right? And we know a little bit of business, etc. But we may not be experts in drafting these kinds of contracts or filing these returns. GST, everyone talks about. What is the GST implication, right? How does that, when I raise an invoice, what should I put? All of these are things that we may not necessarily know. Okay. Obviously, it's going to be, all of us as entrepreneurs need to understand it a little bit. But it's going to be very difficult for us to become a chartered accountant. And it's going to be very expensive for you at a very early startup stage to go and hire your own CFO. Right? Because you don't have enough money to run your own affairs, much less sort of pay for high quality. So we have these things called shared services, right? Where the incubation cell has an agreement with a variety of service providers, legal, HR, accounting, etc. And makes those service providers available to for use by the startup at a nominal charge, right? It's to start with, it's free. Okay. Yeah. So,
Exceed the
certain amount, and I think there are certain services that are free, and if you want to go beyond that, then but essentially from a startup's perspective, I'm taking care of two problems. Right? One, I don't have to pay market rates. Second, I don't have to go search for who's the accountant I need, should I hire them, etc. All of that is there, right? So we have funding, we have shared services. Right? Of course, we have space, internet connection, electricity, etc. All of those kinds. So you don't have to go look for places to rent. And all of that. So for the period of incubation, which is roughly between a year and a half to possibly at max about 3 years, so you have some amount of space. So what else am I missing? We've got funding, we've got shared services, we've got space, branding, marketing, taxation, this, that, business. What does an investor look for? So all of these are knowledge sessions that are being provided. But to me, the secret sauce, right, the one thing that I think we know particularly well compared to many other places is mentoring, right? Because I think this is key. All of us, when you start off, particularly if you're recently graduate student, etc., you've sort of lived in a relatively cocoon world, right? So you've been at home, you've been in the hostel, you haven't quite been out in the world, and therefore how the world works is obviously complicated. Okay, and so good quality mentoring from people both on the technical side and on the business side, particularly on the business side, could go a really long way. So even things like how do I price my product? Right? Very often we say, okay, this is the cost of all the materials that go into my product. So, all the things that I need to buy are 100 rupees, I'll price it at 110 and make a 10 rupee profit. Right? But there are all kinds of hidden costs that people may not necessarily understand because there's a whole supply chain. Right? You have to distribute it, you have to market it, you have to transport it, etc. And when you start adding, package it, when you start adding all of these, sometimes you'll find that something that costs you 100 rupees to build in the lab cannot be sold for less than 300 rupees. Right? So again, people with experience can help you work through these kinds of things, right? How much should I price things at? All of those. When I negotiate an agreement with somebody who wants to either invest in me or buy a product, what should I be looking at? Is this a good deal or is this a bad deal? Right? Because all of these clauses. So there's a lot of mentoring. Who do I approach? At what stage do I approach? So mentoring becomes key. So we have in the support system, right, we have a sort of an organization called the IIT Madras Entrepreneurs Forum. I also happen to be part of this organization, and it's just a loose group of alumni from primarily in Silicon Valley and Chennai, IIT Madras alumni, come together and said, look, we will give back to the university, and our way of giving back is being spent time. Right? We're not going to fund any of these companies. We will help mentor them. Okay, so there are a bunch of people, 20 odd people, etc. Essentially, so as new companies get incubated, the EF works with the incubation cell and says, okay, what kind of expertise is this company looking for? Right? Are these really raw guys who really need some business expertise? Are they in the chemicals industry? Mentors for that company from within the alumni network. And the idea being that the mentor should really, problem with mentoring, we can talk about this later as well as you guys sort of go through this. Ideal mentor should just be wanting to help the company. But very often people mentor also for personal gain. Right? Because you want sort of the company to do well, you might want to invest in the company, etc. It's a fine line, it's not wrong. But it's a fine line being. So you have the IIT Madras Entrepreneurs Forum. In addition, we have just the IIT Alumni Association. We have people like TIE, the Indus Entrepreneurs Thai chapters are there everywhere in India. Here we have an angel group called the Kiritsu Forum, etc. So these are all people who are looking and saying, okay, is a startup doing well enough that we can invest in? Just keep us in touch, right, with the startup. So it becomes very important because you get startups who start up and we help them, okay, they've got their accounting in place, etc. They've got some initial funding, they've started making their product, they've got some mentoring, but they need to scale, right, and at some point you need funding. We don't provide crores of funding, right, we provide a few lakhs to get you started. Okay, so where, we also have to transition these startups to the next level, and so we have all of these sort of friends of IIT, if you will, who sort of continue to engage with us, we engage with them, and through that process, when a startup is mature enough, it sort of gets funded, right? So this is in some ways the life cycle of, I've got an idea, I don't know what to do with it, okay, so let me test it out within campus. My idea makes sense, it looks like it has market potential. Let me actually get incubated by one of these incubators, start up a company, get mentored, get some funding, run, and hopefully if I do well, I start getting some funding, at which point we say we've done our job, right? I mean, at some point, you're graduated, is what we say, right? So you're out, fly on your own, okay? And in particular, of course, the thing is you don't necessarily, it's not a pipeline where you have to enter from there, right? You can enter anywhere, right? So sometimes people come in and say, look, we didn't go through Nirman or whatever, but we've actually independently have an idea that we should do, my teaching to do, my other consulting, all of that. So, this is where I think it becomes very important for organizations like the ECEL to be able to sort of reach through, evangelize entrepreneurship. So there are people in various stages. There are people who are just interested in entrepreneurship, right? So can they learn a bit more? There are people with ideas, right? Can we seek them out and say, look, here are programs where you can test out what you're doing. So I think ECEL essentially is the glue that works together, right? Without the ECEL, a lot of these things, these become very hard boundaries, right? And you might sort of continue to just be in ideation for your entire stay at IIT. Things will change from IIT to IIT, right? So we have C5, maybe you have something else, right? We have Nirman, maybe you have something else. We have a bio incubator, you have something else. So all of these kinds of things obviously will be different in different IIT. But I think it's still useful for everyone to look at, do I have an ideation piece in my university? Do I have a pre-incubation piece? Do I have an incubation piece and a support piece? And what is it that the ECEL can do to seamlessly allow flow through the pipe? Right? And that might help you think of activities that you should do in your ecosystem, and to the extent that after you guys do this, there's sort of information sharing, right? For instance, if each of you drew a picture like this of your ecosystem, then we might all get ideas, right? For instance, maybe today some of you might never have heard of something like Nirman and might go back saying, oh, maybe this is something we should try. Similarly, there's probably something you're doing that when we hear it, we might say, wow, this is something we should try, right? And that I think is the whole point of this kind of discussion. Okay, so I'll stop here. Jaya, you want to?
No, actually, I think Ashwin has got everything. My interest is more in trying to understand how we can, possibly kind of continue working, and if there is any help.
CFI is just a Tinker Lab. Okay, the idea is it's sort of a, maybe, are you guys going to visit CFI at all?
Yes.
Yeah, you are. Okay, so then you guys will see. It used to be a workshop. It's now been converted into, possibly a better word is a maker space. Right? So essentially students go in there and either using the equipment available at CFI or in the workshops right next door, they make whatever they like. Right? So it could be a 3D printer, it could be a drone, or it could even be some kind of big data / machine learning kind of algorithm to solve how do I make fuzzy pictures sharp or whatever. Right? So it's just a place for people to interact. Right? And essentially there's a student structure just like we have ECEL heads, there's a CFI head, there are clubs and groups under them, etc. And there's a democratic process of new clubs, new groups coming in, funding is given, etc. So it's completely sort of student. But the idea is CFI per se does not necessarily push entrepreneurship. CFI says innovate. Right?
And
do whatever.
cultivate the text sphere in the campus.
So just do whatever, and even if and a lot of people in CFI, for instance, there's this guy who has this thing that helps desilt water bodies, right? So many of our water bodies is water hyacinth, this, that, it gets encroached and it's no longer a water body, right? So you lose that. So very often the government goes and desilts these or dredges these water bodies. This guy has one implement to do that. So I talked to him about it because in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, we are quite water starved. Rains are I mean, last year was, I mean, year before was very bad, last year was sort of okay. So I said, this is fantastic, right? So if you can rejuvenate water bodies and more rainwater can be caught, our problems would be solved. Why don't you think about commercializing this? His response was, I'm not interested, right? I'm an innovator, okay? Which is fine. And so that is
But we have to attend this.
So, as of now,
providing funds, but like we tried to get some funding from them, but we weren't able to last year, as far as I remember. But again, like government is investing a lot in these things. Again, the guy from Madhani Foundation told me that government invested 500 crores, somewhere around that number, in order to create more research throughout the country. But again, the actual value addition was nothing. That's what he told me. We got nothing out of it. Okay. So ENB is something only for ITB students. ENB is Entrepreneurship and Business Club of IIT Bombay. So this thing is something which happens throughout the year for the students of the institute. So in ENB we have again like somewhat similar things which everybody must be having: sessions, workshops, and networking / mentoring events. Competitions and the levels of the events we organize. We divide the target audience into 4 levels: L1, L2, L3 and L4, and we try that we cater to all of them. So L1 is basically those people who have no clue about what entrepreneurship is, they don't know even the spelling of entrepreneurship, that kind of people. L2 is somebody who is having a rough idea about what entrepreneurship is and wants to explore more. L3 would be someone who is having like rough idea, interested as well, tried a little bit, but again still trying to work. L4 is someone who is having a decent good enough idea, or maybe a startup, or somewhere on those lines. So our sessions are again divided according to those lines. For L1 we have orientation every year, freshman orientation basically. I'm not sure if everybody of you has an orientation program, but this is something which is required for all of the freshmen because a lot of them don't know what entrepreneurship is. And for L1, the competition which we organize is ENB Buzz. I guess I mentioned in the morning. So ENB Buzz is again a B-Plan competition exclusively for freshmen to give them a feel of what happens kind of from nothing to a business model, I guess, but in a really not naive, okay, I think you got my point. In a easy or simple manner, I guess. So, yeah. these are the things which we majorly have from L1, because after these things we consider them to be, we consider that their level has been changed to L2. In L2 we have sessions like, okay, in L2 we have a competition known as ENB Crusade. ENB Crusade, okay. Buzz is an event 2 weeks long, basically 2 weekends rather. You work for the 4 days only, and in between you have lectures and everything which you can manage. So in ENB Buzz, we have a session on ideation, after which the students kind of try to ideate whatever it is. The students are guided, the freshmen are guided by Sophies and 30s. Later on the next weekend, they present their business model to the seniors basically. So that's the kind of thing which happens in ENB Buzz. So ENB Buzz was started last year only, and after ENB Buzz, we got lots of requests from Sophies as well as 30s that they want a similar kind of competition. For even we should invite students from outside, students and professionals from outside IIT Bombay as well. So we did. It's not that rigid, but in general, the main motive is to cater IIT students. The challenges which we face with ENB is that the participation which we get from the IIT Bombay students is not that, is less than what we expect, to be honest. So that is a major thing, but we have our own, like the structure of entire IITB, the curriculum and the other clubs and everything. I guess that's something we'll have to sort ourselves on.
What are the drop rates?
Actually, for ENB students, good question. So I guess if we get 60 in the first session, by the time we'll be at 4th session, we'll have around 30. For ENB Buzz, the drop rate was too less. We got around 120 students during the session 1, and out of them 80 to 90 participated in the final round as well. I guess freshies are more sincere than seniors. Okay, FCOF.
So the orientation session is taken by you guys or you invite?
Like as I mentioned, I'm not sure if Anupam Mittal was there.
Everyone to hear that.
Sorry?
Like everyone should know about it.
Okay, fine. So for orientation program, we invite entrepreneurs, and we mostly try to invite the kind of people who are more cool, to be honestly, so that students will at least get attracted and try to explore that particular area. So one of the instances I told these guys earlier in the morning was like we had Anupam Mittal, the CEO of Shaadi.com, when I was a freshie and in my orientation. So he asked us a question like, what is the spelling of entrepreneurship? So we were like, हाँ ये होता है, वो होता है, we're guessing and everything. So he said no, it is only 4 words. Now guess what? So again we were like, okay, we don't know what's going on. So when anybody swagged me at the end, he closed it this way: entrepreneurship is SEXY. Like that statement is something I guess the entire crowd of 500 to 600 students still remember till date. So that is the kind of people who try to invite, because that is something which creates a buzz among the students and then they try to explore. That's something which worked with me, so like, we took care that we invite some these kind of people. The guys with good names, I believe. Okay, FCOF. So FCOF is for IITB as well as non-IITB startups plus IITB co-founder is something. In case a startup wants a co-founder, they can register on FCOF. They can list what they are doing, and they can also list that what they want. Do they want a co-founder, or in case they want a freelancer? Everything is uploaded on the portal. The students of IITB can log in through their LDAP IDs. I mean, something which IITB provides, and then they can see, and it's kind of a tender for this thing. They can, if they'll match, they'll talk to each other and they'll fix a certain stipend and the work which we'll do, and that's how it works basically. The major problem which we are facing with FCOF as of now is that we are not having good enough startups in FCOF. Majorly because I feel we were lacking in the same thing, because we weren't putting in much effort. But still, last year the FCOF was really improved, and we still need to work upon it.
Admit doesn't say that your students are working for money during the semester. And,
why should they care?
As in, our dean had some knowledge.
Okay, no, our dean doesn't interfere with all of these things. Like I guess
This is throughout year thing, no?
This is,
Continuously
yeah.
update it and
whenever you want to, wherever you want to.
Yeah.
What exactly happens like?
First semester people can participate now. On the second semester
Let's
they can.
assume your institute does not allow this. Even if that, some students will log in and you'll work informally, how would they know? Unless and until somebody doesn't tell them.
They know.
CG drop.
It's
No, he was talking about extreme, so I'm just I was just wanted to ask that was there any cases found, and if you
But
want to
even
do this and
it's,
then
I guess it is something which drops in general. Like you don't need a reason for that.
no,
There is
I'm
like
talking
this
about
drop,
three,
this
four,
drop.
aspects I'm talking about. Fine, let's go
Considering
ahead.
like our institute doesn't.
Let's go ahead.
So, I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but we also do something on
Last year, around 5 to 10 students finalized their kind of
deals.
match or like whatever you call it.
So do you target alum startups or
All of the startups are there. The ones who are
How do you create that demand? As in, demand could be
basically
demand creation is easier, right?
I'll come to your question when I discuss the next thing immediately. There's one more thing that we have the finalists of Eureka, we have the TTM startup database as well. We have something from SSP as well. So we send them mails or we kind of talk to them and invite, and that's how we get them on our board. But again, it's not that active because
It's a
the
rigorous
execution part is difficult, to be honest. So that is the thing which we are facing. Next is SSP. SSP is meant for customers. We reach out to different service providers, maybe SEO, SEM, co-working spaces, design, or service providers which is making websites or things like that. And we kind of have a deal with them that we give you ITB startups who are, the incentive for them is that they get ITB startups which are good, they have a reputation so that their service
portfolio becomes
providing company will grow. And in exchange, they are supposed to provide these services to these startups at a subsidized rate. This is again something which helps us get startups into F4. When we deal with them, we ask them that can we tap into your network and things like that. So that's pretty much SSP and FOF.
Then there is IP portal.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the morning, I guess that we want to create more startups who are into core tech or the core values of all the IITs. So we try to involve the research of all the IIT professors and try to
and some other
professors put the research and everything, and students the business guy, the product guy basically. We are trying to match them. So okay. That's IP portal. Still raw. Illuminate is something, these are pre-Eureka workshops. So Illuminate is pre-summit workshops. So this is around 1 to 1.5 hour long workshop, majorly focused in cities like Mumbai, Pune and Nashik. Cities which are near to Bombay. The main motive of this workshop is to let the students know about what entrepreneurship is and kind of invite them to eSummit as well so that they can learn more about what entrepreneurship is, networking and maybe startup and all of that. So that's onwards. Last year onwards, we started organizing a social initiative as well because we thought that we should do something in society so that it's not related to entrepreneurship, it's just a social initiative. So last year we organized a Cleanliness Drive. It was going up at cliche in Bombay, so we thought because it's our first year, let's go with it.
which page you get?
So I guess
Which page?
I didn't get what.
social initiative. Beach clean किया था, Juhu beach clean up किया, cleanliness drive. So I guess this is something which pretty much sums up what we do. She told earlier only that Inter-IIT FCOF, where we can exchange startups and students for internship as well as, for freelancing as well as co-founder thing. The second thing which made sense to me was, I noticed in IT because you have lots of tech guys as well as IIT Hyderabad as far as I remember, right? And in IIT Bombay, personally I feel we have lots of business guys. So we can club them in so that they can come up with a common cause. That's a general trend I observed with the interaction I had with you guys as well as the things which you have seen at things that I've seen at IIT Bombay. So I guess these are the two major things I was able to come up with currently. Plus, one more thing, I'm not sure if we'll be able to pull it off or not. The thing which Aman mentioned, NEC can, every IIT can focus on their own region so that we'll be able to create more impact. There's no sense that we are tapping entire India, you will tap your region. Colleges tap. Again, any
One college
is
will
doing the
get
same thing.
One college will get request from IT Bombay, IT Madras, IIIT Hyderabad.
Any is doing again the same thing. So like.
Now, there was this head, and there was this roughly 10 managers, 20 managers under him. Just 2 levels and probably a few volunteers. So what generally it used to be was probably first years over here, second, third year mixed over here, probably a fourth year here. This model, like we were following this model. This was probably from 2 years or 3 years, something like that. Actually, from when our ESL started itself, so we were just following this. This year, we actually realized that this model is quite a bit futile, as you can see. Like it's actually something which doesn't work. So this is actually we are a bit changing into it. So still we are keeping one head. This is for a very simple reason that we are a small IIT yet. So our ESL is also a bit small till now. So we haven't grown so much, and neither do we plan to run ahead. We just plan to take everything well and smooth and slowly. So there is one head. Below that there are actually 3 cores or whatever we say is subordinates. So one of it is marketing and finance head, one of it is a PR head, and one of it is an events head. And below these heads there is actually a set of managers, and below these managers there is a set of volunteers. Typically if we see, these volunteers are people from first year, these are from second year, from third year, and this is probably one person from fourth year who has been in ESL for the past few years. So he actually has a lot of experience how ESL works, what ups and downs it has faced, what events it has done, how it has grown through. Apart from that, there are a few new things which we are launching. So this is basically a web and digital arts coordinator. So that's basically for simple stuff. 2 important other positions which we launched were, firstly, a PhD special positions were created for that as well. Till now, in general, only BTechs are heading this, and this year also we are trying to not change that BTechs don't come up here somewhere. So we have actually created 2 or 3 separate positions to take them. So this person will be actually coordinating with all these PhD guys and all that. So this is something new which we are trying out this year. So basically, just to name a few, head is Keshav. He's not here now. He was Keshav Choksi was about to come, so he's not here now. I come at this level, and all these are my colleagues running at this level. So volunteers are typically first year. So yeah.
So just a comment, often we see that what are the successful startups? So they have to have 2 co-founders, just for the sake of reason that if one falls sick, there's no one to forward the mail. So you should have.
So actually, yeah, we should be having 2 heads.
Complementary skills.
Complementary skills, we agree with that. But this is the first time basically you are changing our structure. So there is something which we probably want to keep intact as well.
The major problem which we face is participation, since we have less strength and stuff. To create a buzz for ESL, it becomes tough. That's one major problem which we have been facing. I mean, which I saw was a major problem, since none of my friends or none of my batchmates were so enthusiastic about the ESL. As you know, I've been working closely with the ESL.
Like we probably have a batch of 300. Out of this, 150 will be there for ACADS itself and something like that. Out of remaining 150, there will be fest, there will be 10 kinds of PORs, and so probably we just get a handful of 4 or 5 enthusiastic people, which are actually ready to work for ESL or probably get into startup and something like that. So actually this number which we feel is actually very less, firstly, so this is something which we are lacking. Being a new IIT, we don't expect things very big, but still this is very less and probably not up to the mark.
Second problem we faced was converting budding ideas to a working model. It takes time, we all know, converting an idea to a model to everything. It takes
So yeah, so one important event after that is what it is Megathon. This is one of the important events that happens. It happens in collaboration with IIIT guys. Apart from that, over the year we have a few things. A few general things is what an ESL does. We basically have a few workshops. Now, in general, the ESL of all the IITs or whatever, not IITs also in the general colleges, these workshops are more of entrepreneurial based. But we don't just conduct entrepreneurial based workshops, we actually take up some technical workshops as well. Like there was a robot building workshop and an app building workshop. Like how is that related to entrepreneurship? Not exactly related to entrepreneurship, but you may apply those skills somewhere. Whatever good you think, whatever bad you think, whatever idea you have, whatever you like, whatever you dislike, just put it up.
How to create that demand and how the
So
developer-
basically that happens. Most of the people participating from these are the freshers, because this actually happens more in the first semester itself. So what they always have this, what is entrepreneurship and this and all that. So basically this happens. After that there is this one more thing. This is generally taken up in the event semesters or the second semester. These are basically case study sessions. So what do we do in these case study sessions? We take up a good startup and we take up a bad startup. We just compare it. So we have already probably having a presentation, something similar to that, but we just ask the freshers or whatever, even why not the teammates, so why probably this startup went ahead, why probably this startup so basically we were I just remember a actually this one is actually a good one. No one of them is actually a failure, but one is ahead of others. So this was actually happened just after demonetization. So we actually wanted to analyze, was demonetization a part of Paytm's success and all that. So, and this year, one important thing which, so basically before moving here, there's one more thing which is called as an idea tool. So what is an idea tool? It is quite simple that you have an idea, you just have a naive idea. Okay, you think you can do something in a transport domain, you don't even know what it is. You can do something in food delivery domain, just come up and say it to us. So but in this what happens basically, Patagate, all of this, except for Marathon, all of this are more or less restricted to the IPS people. This workshop is also again allowed for the outside people as well. So in idea tool, it's quite simple. You have some idea, even a basic naive idea, you come up to us, we basically have a discussion on that. And that rough idea, we try to convert into a concrete idea. Probably give a direction to you.
Who does that?
The members come and discuss and all that. So yeah, that is it. Then there is this year one different thing which we are trying out is Jumpstart. So what we are trying to do in